In December 2025, a critical vulnerability named React2Shell was discovered in React server components, posing a severe risk to applications using affected versions of React and Next.js. With a CVSS score of 10. React2Shell is an unauthenticated remote code execution vulnerability that affects React versions 19 and Next.js, versions 15 and 16. The vulnerability stems from insecure deserialization in the React server components flight protocol, allowing attackers to execute arbitrary code with server privileges. React2Shell affects specific versions of React and Next.js which are listed here. The React server components flight protocol is responsible for serializing server-side components and streaming them to clients. The server renders React components and sends the serialized payload to the client via HTTP, which then deserializes the payload to reconstruct the UI. The vulnerability lies in the insecure deserialization process, allowing attackers to execute arbitrary code by crafting malicious serialized objects. The root cause of React2Shell is insecure deserialization in the React Server DOM Webpack, React Server DOM Parcel, and React Server DOM TurboPack packages. Malformed RSC payloads can bypass validation, enabling attackers to craft serialized objects containing arbitrary code. When the server deserializes these objects without proper checks, the code executes with server privileges. Exploiting React2Shell is alarmingly simple, requiring only a single HTTP post request to trigger remote code execution. Attackers can exploit default create next app setups without authentication, achieving near 100% reliability on unpatched systems. The availability of public proof-of-concept exploits further increases the risk of widespread exploitation. The real-world impact of React2Shell is significant, with 39% of cloud environments hosting vulnerable instances and 44% exposing public-facing Next.js applications. Over 800 IP addresses have been observed scanning for the vulnerability, indicating active exploitation attempts. The exploitation timeline of React2Shell is concerning. The vulnerability was discovered on November 29, 2025, and patched on December 3. Public proof-of-concept exploits were released on GitHub the following day, leading to active exploitation and the deployment of malicious payloads by December 5. After exploiting React2Shell, attackers harvest credentials, deploy Sliver C2 for persistence, install XMRig miners, and move laterally to compromise cloud infrastructure like Kubernetes clusters. Multiple threat actors, including China Nexus groups, opportunistic scanners, and cybercriminals using React2Shell for cryptomining, are actively exploiting the flaw. CISA has also added it to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. Mitigation: patch affected React and Next.js versions immediately. Beyond patching, organizations should use defense in-depth measures such as applying vendor WAF rules, rotating credentials and API keys, monitoring logs for suspicious serialized post requests, deploying EDR for anomaly detection, and scanning for unpatched React2Shell instances. The React2Shell vulnerability, with a CVSS score of 10.0 and active exploitation enabling unauthenticated RCE, poses a critical risk. Organizations should urgently patch, rotate credentials, apply WAF rules, and strengthen monitoring and detection to prevent compromise.